Welcome to the 2024 Winter Classic Student Cluster Competition Studio Update Show. Now, here are your hosts, Dan Olds and Addison Snell.
Dan Olds here. Welcome back for another scintillating episode of the 2024 Winter Classic Invitational Student Cluster Competition Studio Update Show. And we have a very special guest today. In fact, one of the original OG designers and founders of this whole student cluster thing, Brent Gorda. How you doing, Brent?
I'm doing great, Dan. I'm wondering if I should be called the grandfather of this event now instead of the father, because it's been going on for a while.
Yeah, by now that's probably about right.
The gray hair, right? That fits.
Yeah. Well, or the no hair. Yeah, I'm kind of on the no hair side myself. Right. But yeah, so give us a little bit of the origin story.
So this starts way back in Reno in, I think, 2007.
That was the first instance of it.
That's the first instance.
But before
that, well, we tried to start it in 2006 in Florida, but we didn't have space. So it really goes back to 2005 in Seattle.
Okay.
And this is when the clusters were just kind of taking hold and everybody was poo-pooing them and trying to hold on to the old-fashioned supercomputers.
Days of SSD.
I was at Lawrence Livermore at the time with Bill Boas, and we were bantering back and forth, and we kind of made a little bet and said, we think that you could go to a local college with some quality students. You could get half a dozen students and you could build a cluster on the show floor and run the open source apps that many of the scientists were using at the time. And it was kind of a thumb in the eye to say, look, this stuff isn't as complex as we're all pretending it is, right? Everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time. We're all getting older. We're all getting balder, as you just pointed out. And it's time to start bringing in some new talent, right? The science stuff is really what it's all about, and it's super cool. So let's go try to attract some young talent, show them what this is all about, show them how they can succeed at this, and off to the races we were. And in fact, I think that first year, the peak LinPack was right around 1 teraflop. If you remember way back when the 1 teraflop was broken, it was about 10 years earlier that the fastest computer in the world was 1 teraflop. And here we have half a dozen undergraduates, which was one of the requirements at the time, building a 1 teraflop supercomputer on the show floor, running the same open source applications. And hook, line, and sinker.
2010, when I started following this in New Orleans, that was when the next wall was broken through, just barely by 2 or 3 teams.
Yeah.
And that was
It's been
impressive.
A good event.
It really has.
A good event, right? It's held in various places. There's thousands of young, impressionable minds interested in HPC out of this. So I think it's been a real success.
From this, and it had some bumps that, there were some folks that wondered if it was worth it and if we should have done, should do something on Raspberry Pis and open it to 1,000 universities and that sort of thing. But that was put away. But then ISC started one. Our pal Gilad Shainer drove that. And right after that, China. And
China's big. You've been there.
China's
right?
good size. I'm actually going week after next to their latest one. And they have over 300 schools trying to get into their finals. They hold them at various universities. They pick a university. They put it in an indoor stadium, and they're using the scoreboards and stuff. It is impressive. 20 teams, always 20, with full racks. The reason they moved to stadiums is because of one event that I was in. They had it in a smaller area. They'd rented out every big air conditioner in that city, the big room killers. They had them at all 4 access points. Systems were getting close to thermaling out, not to mention the people. So they said it was a problem. The next morning, I see all of their student volunteers all in the same T-shirt, just huddled around a truck. No idea what was going to happen, but I knew something had to change. They start bringing out these red tubs with enormous blocks of ice in them, and they started moving them in. That's old school. Amazing.
Awesome.
I'm like thinking, this can't work. It did work. It was really cool. Yes, it did. It noticeably cooled down that route. Anyway, but we can talk war stories the whole time. What we're here to do is to reveal the updated leaderboard after the AWS Relion Challenge.
Excellent. I'm excited. Let's do it.
Is hard. Let's do it. So diving into that, let's take a look at our first. Well, we're going to take a look at our last results first, so people can see just where everyone sits. 11 teams. We've got, less than 70 points separating first from fifth. And
looks like a tight race.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at those LinPack numbers. You score a 90, a 98. You're in the 98th percentile, and you're sixth. Huh? Yeah. And
they've got that one pretty much dialed in now. It looks like.
Yes, it was well dialed in. So that's what the leaderboard looks like now. We've got the Matadors winning the Battle of Texas over the Red Raiders, but not by much. Fayetteville's hanging in at third. Santa Cruz, 3 points behind, putting some pressure on them. Battle of New Mexico, Roadrunners got a little bit of breathing room now. Little bit, though. And let's take a look at what specifically happened. As always, there are bumps in the road here. And when we're getting this late in the term, what happens with students in schools, Brent?
I suspect spring break, and
before that?
Up here, the exams, sure. Exams, and then take a break. Yep.
And
so you timed it poorly for them.
Well, it's always going to hurt somebody, as it turns out. I did go through all the schedules and took the best path. And the other thing about these are all full-time students, but they also all have jobs. I mean, this is multiple
a night job working at Google or Azure or something, right?
Yeah, or a liquor store or whatever. Working for the school, these are not
they're busy
located
kids
in the valley. So they're putting themselves through school. So this is understandable.
Bravo to them, Doing this on top of that. That's great.
And they're so hungry. That's the thing I love about this, is that even if they had problems, they're in there, and that's great. So
that's what makes a good event, right? All of these kids are worth talking to from a recruiting standpoint. They got the stuff. They make it happen.
Doing it on their own time. That's fantastic. So we get into the scoring, and Texas Tech Matadors were first, but on AWS Relion, a little bit of a stumble. Coming in at 50.
Knocked down a couple points there.
Yeah, and we don't know what that's going to do to their overall score, but it ain't going to help. Same thing for Santa Cruz. Fayetteville holding pretty steady. That's good.
Looks like they did well in here.
They did.
Fayetteville's ahead on this one.
Yes, so far. Let's turn the page and see what the top echelon looks like. Oh, wow. Okay. New Mexico showing up well, but the Roadrunners showing up on top.
Yeah.
Now, Red Raiders, very close, right?
Looks good. Close
Yeah.
race for those top 2 points.
It is. It is. When it comes to AWS. And, that's one of the things that I like about this that I dislike about all the others. You only get the results once. They work for like 3-4 days, and then it's over. And you don't typically find out who was second, third, fourth, fifth.
Right. In the other events.
Yeah. Okay.
So here you roll them out application at a time. So it's a horse race. They're in the third corner, rounding fourth, headed for the home stretch.
We have 2 scoring events left. The one that they're doing now is Google with GrowMax.
Yeah.
And they'll be turning in those results on Saturday, I think 3 p.m. Pacific. Not sure. And then they have the interview, which I believe you'll be in some of those.
Oh, great. Looking forward to that.
Yes. That is a few times made the difference in how teams finish.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a little tense, a little bit of pressure on the teams. I mean, you've done that, but you've done this before. I mean, you've done those interviews.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine you're the nice guy at first in the interview, and then you ask some sort of a soul-piercing question.
Soul-piercing question. You got me pegged, Dan.
I know.
Sorry. Now you're tipping my hat to all the students I'm going to be talking to. They're going to be on their guard, watching for that soul-piercing
I've been telling
question.
them to be on their guard against you folks. So absolutely they will.
Guys like me?
Guys like you. Yes. So let's take a look at how this is impacting the leaderboard, starting at the bottom. Again, tough, but they're in there pitching. That's great.
Yep.
And moving on to see the middle of the pack on our post AWS leaderboard, we start to, get into that top echelon with New Mexico coming in 5th and 6th. Little more breathing room for the Roadrunners, who are the less experienced team.
Looks like they just kind of missed that HPCG. If they'd have got the conjugate gradient done, they would be right up there in the race.
And you know who's kicking themselves about this? That whole team. Because with a good HPCG, they would be right there. Santa Cruz, you can't go to sleep on them either. Although they've got to start feeling the pressure from the Roadrunners.
Yeah.
So let's see.
They're pretty close.
Let's see how it turned out. And here we go. Top 3 teams. Look at that.
Wow, Texas Tech. Twice.
Yeah. They are really out for campus bragging rights here. They've been in for the last 2 years, and they've one of the teams has finished 3rd, and the other team has finished like 7th. And they each have dominance in 1 year. This is the match to see.
Yeah.
We're going to see where it's at with them. The great thing about it, Brent, they have the same coach, PhD student, who was a team member in 2022.
Oh, wow. Excellent. Pay it forward.
Yeah. And they're having fun. I got a feeling he's kind of having fun torturing both of the teams.
It's too easy to torture these people, Dan. That's not nice.
It is. I mean, but if I were him, I'd be dropping text messages on him and saying, so what are you guys doing? You working? Oh, having dinner? Oh, I'm sorry, because I was just in a conversation with the other team. They're working. So don't worry about it. I'm sure you're fine. Yeah. But this is very close. There's still 200 points left. Like we said with Google, and then the interview. And we've seen teams move from 5th to 2nd with one application. That was
Gromax, you said.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure. It kind of depends. AWS did OpenFOAM a couple of years ago with just the typical motorcycle airflow problem.
Yeah. And standard benchmark.
Yeah, that they left an opening though. They told them, you can do anything you want. We just need the same coefficient or better. No worse.
Okay.
It's like 0.056 or something like that. One team said, well, what would happen if we coarsened up the mesh? Turns out really good things.
Yeah, exactly. Your runtime goes way down.
They were shocked, and they were interpolating and working it down. And within 2 minutes of the deadline, they turned in their final result. And this was Prairie View from the heart of Texas.
I think I remember this story. Yeah.
I keep telling
this
it.
Is good.
Yeah. More than an order of magnitude better than anybody else. So they're scoring
That's real life,
100.
my friend.
Everyone else is scoring fractions of a point. It was incredible. They vaulted into second place by 2 points and won it in the interview.
Nice.
It was very nice. But
the years have those kind of stories. The teams that know what they're doing and really ferret out some of the advantages in this. It's brilliant. Love it.
It's kind of a thinking out of the box as well. That same year, the team that had been leading throughout built their lead on HPCG. And what they did is they reduced the problem size so it fit in memory, which was not against the rules as laid out by HPE. It was the next year and the year after. But then, that gave them a nice lead. Yeah. Yes. And I get a call from HPE mentors Sunday night going, we got a problem. I said, well, yeah, but was it against the rules? Well, no, but it's against the spirit. No, was it against the rules?
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of thing we want them to try, isn't it? Oh, yeah, okay. Well, let me give them the points. So anyway, another war story. We do have to say that you can see Brent these days at AMD, where you are doing what?
I run business development for high performance computing and AI here at AMD. So global coverage. We cover all the big accounts. A lot of HPCs moving towards AI and AMD kit, especially the APU, which is an interesting design. You spoke about that. That's a very cool system.
I'm hearing buzz about that.
It's going to grow. Now, Capitan is getting a lot of kit in these days, and it's fun to watch.
And for you students or anybody else, I guess, watching the thousands and tens of thousands, the thing about an APU is it's a coprocessor, right? it shares
coprocessor
memory
on the package. They sit in the same memory. No more pulling memory into your CPU, shipping it off to the GPU, and then saying, go. You hand a pointer off. And so think of the ramifications. You've got a code that's a CPU-only code. You do a profile. You find that routine that needs to be on the GPU, and you put in directives on the GPU. It's effectively zero cost, and all of a sudden you're running on the GPU.
Well, and the thing is, with the big memory size you can put on a system, they're completely sharing that whole thing, and all that communication, all that passing around is at RAM speed, not PCI speed. HBM
speed. Yeah,
I just had a shudder go through me.
4 terabytes a second bandwidth to that stuff. It's crazy fast. Yeah. It's a new architecture. It's a new day. It's a real interesting path.
I really have been looking forward to seeing more performance numbers on that. Is that on the way?
Well, of course. Yes.
Okay, then.
Come to ISC.
I'll be there.
We'll see you in Hamburg.
Absolutely. Well, Brent, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure's all mine.
And
it's great to see you again. Love this topic. Love to see all the students getting into HPC and understanding the science and getting attracted to our community. It's a benefit for all of us.
Let me throw one more thing in here at you. I did a survey of all the past competitors in this competition. And it's a question I ask them anyway, but ask them formally, how many of you knew that HPC was a thing before you did this? About 70% said, no, not really. Wasn't on my radar. And then I asked them a couple of questions lower. How many of you would like a career in HPC? And that was also above 70%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's addictive. Once
really
you see
cool.
HPC, it's like, this is cool stuff. I want to do that.
Yes.
I did an interview at Supercomputing on camera, and I described being in a bar, and a NASA rocket scientist walks up, and he's got a beer in his hand, and he wants to talk about satellite data and compression and downloading and storing it on Lustre. And what other event can you have a beer with a scientist from NASA and talk tech? Yeah. Right. This is a cool occupation. I'm excited to see all the interest in it.
It's running the world's most difficult problems on the biggest, fastest hardware available. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. So we got to close this out. I got to thank you again, Brent.
Good.
Please follow us on social media. Look in HPC Wire for this update, which you just saw, I guess, if you're hearing this message. But for others, got a whole slate of shows up there and more to come as soon as I can get some time to do them. Going to have some interviews with the teams, more updates, getting into the final rounds of this. And it's a horse race. So stay tuned, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks again.